Our objectives in designing and building the new town of Washington are these: to inject new prosperity into the region, to raise the standards of urban development, and to set an example for private and public expenditure on industry and housing. Our plans are bold and imaginative, but they are being applied in a very practical and realistic manner. We have studied in depth every aspect of living and working. Much of our studies have covered new sociological and demographic ground. We have looked back into history for causes and forward to the end of the century for trends. I believe the result will be visually stimulating, aesthetically satisfying, economically viable, and socially desirable. Washington will not be a new town off the peg. It will be custom built for the people of the North in an exciting era of change towards a better way of life. It will be a town for people where human values outweigh every other consideration.
From what started as just a series of small villages, Washington has grown into a thriving town. From mining villages to flourishing new industries, Washington has had quite the journey. But what were its goals? What did the corporation set out to accomplish? Through the people of Washington, we will answer these questions. After all, it's not simply the story of one, but of 80,000 residents. The transition from small villages to new town was led by James Steele, head of the Washington Development Corporation. One of the goals the Washington Development Corporation set out to achieve was to stimulate faster progress in raising the quality of the region's urban development. A means of achieving this was to replace the mining heritage the town was once known for with new industries. Let's hear from Washington residents about their early job experiences, both before and after the new town was built.
First job was effectively working on the buildings with Leachies, and absolutely loved it because it was, you went straight from being almost a school kid into a male environment. I think the big difference was the difference I see between then and now. Young people tend to want to be eased into it. You didn't have a choice when I was a kid. You left and you were at work, and if you didn't do it, they weren't afraid to kick you to the backside. I thought it was a fantastic job. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and thoroughly enjoyed the people I met.
I loved it. My first job was Little Fuse on Crowther Industrial Estate, and at the time, for my age, I was getting paid weekly in a brown paper envelope, and it was quite a lot of money for me. And Mum would go every Friday and buy a new outfit and go out every weekend and still have money left at the end. It was great.
A man's outlook was bounded by his work. Now it's only a memory, half remembered, obsolete.
Went down the mines. It was with Corrie. I was 14 and a half when I went down. First thing, everybody at the time, mines in Washington was the main thing, unless you went for an apprenticeship with automatic when you wanted a job at the pit, because it was that little few pennies more than what it was anywhere else.
I got my first job before I left school, which was working as a waitress for T&I Bells, and I still work there now. After that, I had a job working in a factory for about half a day, and then I just thought this isn't for me. Then I got my first year at college, I got a job here working in the cafe on a night during the youth clubs, and I've worked here ever since, and that was 12, 13 years ago.
Before the development of the new town started in 1964, the villages of Washington all possessed unique personalities. The residents who grew through the new town's development have interesting and at times differing opinions on the changes it brought to the area.
It happened really without me knowing, to be honest, Washington becoming a new town, because when they were on about the slum clearances and that in the early 60s, I didn't actually think we lived in slums. It was a standard house. We all lived in the same type of houses. We never actually considered them as slums. We just got on with it. We moved from Brady Square when I was about 6 up to Tyne Gardens, and then we moved from Tyne Gardens when that started to get modernised over to the Oval. And it just sort of happened around us without me really understanding what it was. I mean, new houses were getting built, new sites were opening up. The biggest thing was we just started to get really built up.
I was a bit upset about it at first because the old Washington was lovely and you knew everybody. You mean if you went to Washington during the day, you never got home because you were always talking to this one, that one. But now it's all different. But I mean, time changes, doesn't it? You have to go forward.
I think really the living standard is better now than where it was when we were young. Well, I think they've improved me severally.
When planning the development of the new town, the WDC held exhibitions and public meetings to bridge the interests of the residents and the corporation.
We had a wonderful response. Over 4,000 people attended. 2 crowded public meetings were held and over 1,000 written suggestions were made. We wanted to get your views on our ideas. The purpose behind the exhibition was to show how our work was progressing. Everything that was said, everything that was written was carefully examined, and where possible, your ideas and your views have been incorporated in the plan we have prepared and published.
The WDC finalised the plans at their headquarters based in Usworth Hall. The plan for the town was created by a mixture of professionals from many fields. These included architects, engineers, experts in social development, and several financial, legal and administrative departments to ensure nothing was overlooked. Returning back to the basic goals of Washington New Town, James Steele delivered a speech in which he claims that
I believe the result will be visually stimulating.
we have one of Washington's residents who has something to say about the visual state of the area.
I love the trees in Washington. I absolutely love the trees. It's so pretty. And I like that in between every little village, you know, you've got trees. And then in the autumn, when they go that beautiful colour. And it sounds silly, but I'm in awe of it sometimes because it's kept looking pretty. It's kept looking nice, you know. It doesn't look grubby. It doesn't look dirty. I just don't have any complaints about living here.
One of the key aspects that was to be carried over from Old to New Town was the focus on the community spirit. With Washington initially being a series of small villages, the community was tightly woven. The new town was designed in such a way that community involvement was encouraged. This was not to be an easy task, as James Steele himself described the situation. To reform the social structure is a more delicate and difficult task than creating the physical structure. Community halls were put in place to help push forward involvement in the form of community groups. Here's Jim, a community development officer who helps people moving into the area with information and answers any queries they have.
Life in the new town is like living in a small village within the shadow of a larger community. New residents are always made welcome.
Hello, my name is Jim Ewing and I'm employed as a community development officer with the Development Corporation to help new people coming into the area with information or to answer any queries they might have on social or community activities.
In every new village, we open an office in one of the first houses to be built. A place where people can go for information, learn about the facilities available and the programme for new building.
Are there any women's clubs in Barmston?
Yes, we have a well-established women's club which meets up here in the village centre on a Tuesday evening. Quite a lively group.
Here they meet other new residents and are encouraged to form their own association.
If a committee wants to change its policy, it changes its policy.
But 50 years later, has that community spirit been kept intact? Let's hear from Washington residents from then and now.
Washington at the moment has plenty of character. Will this disappear in the new Washington?
It will not. As a matter of fact, all the characteristics in Washington will remain. It does entail, of course, redevelopment, but the old characteristics will be retained.
I think we're friendly. I think we're laid back. I think we do have quite a good community spirit because we're quite small in comparison to Newcastle and Sunderland. So, like I say, because there's generations and people have gone to school here, people know each other. And if I don't know them directly, their mum might know my mum or things like that. So it's harder to be disrespectful and it's harder to be. So I think people do pull together when things are going tough. People pull together, and I love that about us, definitely.
People in Washington, they always keen to help you if you're looking for advice or if you're lost, looking for places to go. There's always somebody that'll help you, friendly. Some of the people are great.
I think Washington is a good place to live. I think it does have a nice community feel, and I think because you do have the little villages that people within that village as well feel like they are part of a small community.
What are Washington people like?
I would say, because I'm one, very friendly, very probably outspoken as well, and pretty easy to get along with.
The story of Washington Newtown doesn't end here. Washington forever continues to grow with new industry and an ever-increasing population. Washington's main shopping centre has recently had new developments with the addition of a retail park, bringing more big-name retailers to the area. More leisure facilities are also opening this year, with the introduction of Washington's new £11 million leisure centre complex. The new complex will replace the old centre, due to close this year. The new building, which is part of Sunderland City Council's £60 million capital programme, will include a 6-lane pool, 2 water slides, an international standard trampoline hall, 2 squash courts, a soft play area, a gym and a 4-court sports hall. Teal Farm Village is a new development in Washington which features a wide collection of beautiful new homes. These homes have modern designs and wonderful views of Pensure Monument and the surrounding woodland. With many local amenities, including great schools nearby, this will be another fantastic addition to the new town. Industry continues to grow and expand in 2015, with the Nissan plant still providing a large source of employment for the area. In 2016, the area will be getting a £100 million advanced aerospace disc manufacturing facility owned by Rolls-Royce. The new factory will guarantee hundreds of new manufacturing jobs in the region. With this focus on low-carbon technology development, Washington will be helping the UK keep its spot as the leader of aerospace industry in Europe. Washington New Town sees its 50th anniversary in 2014, but what about the time before 1964 and its designation as a new town? Washington's history can be followed back to at least 800 BC, when the area was known as Wessington, and indeed Neolithic artifacts have been found in the area taking its history way back. So why was Washington designated for new town status? The area had grown up around a large number of collieries and chemical works, and, following on from the end of the Second World War, housing was in short supply. Washington had a large number of prefabricated houses still in use almost 20 years after the end of the war. The large areas to the north of the town, such as Newcastle and Gateshead, were running out of space, and new homes and factories were needed to build the country's way out of decay and to grow economic prosperity. A large number of homes in the Washington area were old colliery homes and still did not have bathrooms or indoor toilets, and tended to be overcrowded. It was not unusual to have mice and beetle infestations, as well as dampness in these homes. Indeed, even the ancestral home of perhaps the town's most famous son, George Washington, had become a tenement, housing a large number of families. Regarding Washington's old industry, the coal mines were not the sole industry on which the old town relied. Washington Chemical Works was a major employer in the 19th century. The works produced a variety of products but focused specifically on the production of magnesia. The chemical works went into decline at the start of the 19th century, and the ownership was passed on to Newall's Insulation Limited in 1903. Newall's Insulation and Chemical Company continued producing insulation until its closure in 1973. The area which grew up around the chemical works is known as Pattinson Town. This area is now the Teal Farm Housing Estate and the Pattinson Industrial Estate. A lot of the old industries in Washington relied on wagonways and train lines. In the mid-18th century, the transport of coal was vital. Washington Iron Works were established by the chemical works in 1858, linked by rail to the nearby coke ovens. The iron works manufactured underground wagons, pit headgear, shovels, and other hardware for the coal mining industry. Regarding other industrial work, the old town also had brickworks, which were still in use as late as 1978. The pride of our heritage is strong and continues to be so. It is what links both the history of the old town and the new. Even with current developments, the history of the town is often revisited and kept in mind when continuing with future endeavours. Some have argued that the new town, despite its expansive and rich heritage, lacks a visual portrayal of Washington's past. Currently, plans have been made to rectify this by the commissioning of a miner's statue in Concord. Recent heritage festivals have proved very successful with the community and have brought back more interest into the history of the town.
Well, Durham Big Meeting for a start. I like that. That's good. And now we'll have the heritage of the miners thing, so that's good. I'm pleased they've done that, so it means we're getting to know things and being there, you know, and helping out and stuff like that.
Well, we used to, Usworth Park used to have like a sports day years and years ago. We used to enjoy that. And then there was the one at Dame Margaret's home, which was a fair. We used to enjoy that as well. And now is the Millennium, the Heritage. Yeah. That's the thing.
Everybody used to love Durham Big Meeting, love us with Sports Day, and now with the Heritage. I think it's one of the most great things that's happened to Washington for ages, what's fetching people together, and people really want to know about it now, which one time, if you mentioned something they didn't want to know, but now the Heritage seems to be the same thing.
Probably it's a Heritage Festival like they have, that's been going on for the last few years. I think that's a great event. It's probably one of the only ones that Washington have now. It's well attended, and I think it's good to have something where the whole of the community can come together just for something that's just for us.
I think the best events what we'll have now is when we'll have the Miners' March come down the front street, and then we'll have like the Heritage meetings and get-togethers up on Albany at Pitt Field. This happens every year and quite a few people go there and it's a good atmosphere.
I think when I was little, I used to look, they used to hold where the bingo is. There used to be a fair there, and there used to be like a firework display that I'm sure the council put on, and that used to be fabulous. It used to draw a good crowd. I do like the Heritage Day. I like the music and the bands, and I like how traffic just is stopped for it. And I like how many people come out and join in, community again. And I like the lights. I like the Christmas lights.
Even though the mining heritage and other old village traits are now gone, they are still celebrated to this day, whether it be through miners' galas or heritage events. The past which shaped the future shall never be forgotten. Washington has ties with the first President of the United States of America. Here's an informative video from 1974 showing the ties Washington Old Hall has with the USA.
In 1183, in the reign of King Henry II, a Norman, William de Hartburn, acquired the village of Westington. He changed his name to William de Westington and became the founder of the Washington family. Parts of the original Norman manor house are still embodied in Washington Old Hall. In 1416, Washington was Prior of Durham. There were many famous Washingtons. Lawrence Washington of Sulgrave Manor obtained a grant of land in Virginia in 1658. George Washington, the first President of the United States of America, was his grandson. Out of the traditions of the past has come a new Washington, rich in promise for the future.
Returning to the modern day, we can look back on what Washington Newtown accomplished during its formation in 1964 and completion in 1988. The Washington Development Corporation have created 17 villages, each with their own character and personality, that make up the new town. These include the following: Blackfell, Usworth, Harrison, Sulgrave, Oxclose, Columbia, Washington Village, Donwell, Ayton, Lambton, Barmston, Rickleton, Fatfield, Concord, Biddick, and finally Glebe. Homes, jobs and amenities have been generated for a rising population of 20,000 to 60,000 people. One of the primary goals of the creation of the new town was to house the overspill population from surrounding cities, and in that regard, Washington has succeeded in one of its key objectives. Another key part of the development was to ensure all residents had immediate access to all of their needs.
Washington is an excellent place to live because for where I live, everything's central for me. I can just walk to this new town shopping centre, or I can just go to Concord. It's really good for transport. You can actually get transport for anywhere you want, any destination, and there's always a good bus service that will be paying every 5-10 minutes for your transport.
That it's quite contained. It's you didn't really ever have to leave Washington to go anywhere, so you kind of knew it like the back of your hand. Nowhere was too far to go. Your friends were always on tap. Good amenities and good job opportunities. You could work here as well.
Although Washington faced industrial decline through the closure of coal mines in the mid-1960s, in 1984, Nissan Motor Manufacturing UK built a car plant in the area. The high unemployment gave Nissan a large and eager workforce, bringing back a big part of industrial work into the town. With so many changes socially and economically, the town has been through some huge changes.
I think Washington's just become a lot more compact, and people obviously have moved here from other areas. I think that the main thing is for me that even people who move here tend to adopt the Washington way in a lot of ways, and we have a good community. I mean, the town's certainly grown. I remember coming up as a kid, we'd walk up from Brady Square to New Washington, as Concord as it is today, and we'd spend, you know, you'd walk past a lot of open fields, you'd walk past a couple of big collieries, but now the town's much more densely populated. There's more people here, there's more housing estates. And that's a shame, because we were never more than a couple of minutes from a big field to have a run around in. So, you know, that really is a bit of a pity, because we could go and play in fields for hours on end and never get in any trouble. It's a hard one, because to me, looking through the old rose-tinted glasses, I didn't think it was that bad growing up. My mum and dad used to always give us what they could. We knew we weren't going to get everything we wanted. People described our area as slum areas. We never felt that way, because what we'd never had, I suppose you never really miss.
Yeah, all the people what I've known through all my lives is still good friends, and we'll carry on regardless of what happens. We still enjoy our social life.
Would you want to live anywhere else?
No, definitely not.
Don't break it, can we save this? Have we faltered at the start? We won't regret, we'll fight for it. There's hope, yeah. But place that bears no time. Confusion from illusion. In a one-track frame of mind, we won't regret. We'll fight for it. There's hope, yeah. And it feels like home, but I know I don't belong. And I know it's wrong, but it feels like we won't regret. We'll fight for it. There's hope, yeah. And it feels like home, but I know I don't belong. And I know it's wrong, but it feels like home. And it feels like home, but I know I don't belong. And I know it's wrong, but it feels like home. And it feels like home, but I know I don't belong. And I know it's wrong, but it feels like home. 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 Feels like home.